talking about soil compaction and essentially things to think about in terms of managing soil compaction, thinking about once you have a compacted system, what you might be able to do to alleviate it. Some of the really critical things to think about in terms of decreasing the potential for soil compaction are things like how well your tractor is operating in the field. So are you running your tires at their rated pressures? And then if you're using tires versus tracks, really if you're running your tires at a rated pressure, you should have less impact overall than if you have, say, an overinflated tire, and very similar to things like tracks. Tires really only influence the top 6 to 8 inches or so of the soil surface, but what drives compaction deeper in the soil is things like axle load. So another thing that we need to think about is how heavy is the equipment that we're actually running across the field. So when we're talking about really big equipment, really heavy equipment, like less number of axles and a lot of weight on that equipment, whether it's a full combine, whether it's grain carts, larger seeders, things like that, all of that has a big impact potentially on driving that compaction deeper in the soil. Compaction is always a higher risk when soil is moist because the water that's in the soil helps to allow the soil particles to move across each other, and that can help the larger air-filled spaces or air-filled pores to crush. So that's another factor we want to think about. What is that actual moisture content? When we talk about things like alleviating compaction or trying to minimize, maybe not minimize, but fix it after it's happened, we can think about crops. Crops are really good. Roots can help to explore the soil and maybe break up some of that compaction, but they may be limited in terms of how easily they can punch through really compacted areas. Lots of times people think about using a subsoiler or some kind of tillage, deep tillage, to break up that compaction, and that can be useful as well. But we do want to make sure that anytime you're using something like a subsoiler, we're actually using it when the soil is quite dry. So at nearest to permanent wilting point is best to allow the soil to fracture and break up as best as possible. And you know, a lot of times in our soils, if they're clayey enough and if that clay has some shrink-swell potential, they may have actually cracked open on their own. So it's one thing to think about if we're using any kind of iron or movement through the soil when the soil is moist, that can cause more problems. So drying the soil out has a lot of impact on kind of opening that soil up and allowing those cracks to happen. Ultimately, limiting traffic on the field is the biggest benefit that you have, but we recognize that that is obviously a limitation because we have to traffic the field. But if we can limit how or where we travel on the field, that can be really beneficial.